Thank you for visiting my channel. I want to speak to you about walking with pure intentions. This is a topic that has been close to my heart. You don't measure energy, you offer it. You don't analyze people's motives, you believe in them. And that's where it begins. See, the most dangerous traps are not set for the wicked, they're laid for the innocent. Those are the ones who still believe that energy always meets them where it came from. But the truth is, it doesn't. There are people who study light just because they desire to manipulate it. People who mirror purity to attract those who carry it. They talk like healers, they move like an empath, post like they're prophets, but their intention is extraction, not elevation. And when you walk with a pure heart, you become the perfect offering. You'll find yourself giving love to people who can't even receive it, forgiving things that should have been confronted, defending what should have been discerned, and calling manipulation grace. You see, the trap isn't about what they did. It's about what they made you doubt in yourself. They made you question your intuition. They made you second guess your spirit. They made you shrink the sound of your knowing because it didn't match their narrative. And suddenly, you're not walking in light anymore. You're walking in confusion, still calling it faith. You don't even notice when it happens because spiritual traps don't start with evil. They start with agreement. An agreement disguised as alignment, a connection that feels divine because it meets your wound, not your wisdom. You felt seen, you felt chosen, but the truth is, your light was targeted. Let me say this slowly. Every system of control in this world, be it spiritual, social, political, begins with appealing to good intentions. That's how deception survives, by dressing itself as duty, by pretending to be purpose. That's why some of the kindest souls end up in the deepest pit because their compassion became currency, their faith became access, their forgiveness becomes open gates. And it's not that they were naive, it's that they believed love was enough to protect them. But here's the truth: love is not just emotion, it's intelligence. Love is not blind, it's aware. And awareness doesn't make you cold, it makes you safe. When you walk with pure intentions, the goal is not to harden, it's to guard the gate. Your love can still flow, but not freely into every hand that reaches. Your spirit can still serve, but not bleed for every soul that calls. Because every connection isn't divine, some are designed. And if you're not discerning, you'll confuse design for destiny. You were not meant to save everyone you understand. Some people you were meant to understand and step away from. That's wisdom. That's love in form. You're not failing them by protecting your peace. You're preserving your assignment. Because once you lose your light in fixing or trying to fix someone else's darkness, you've just fallen into the very trap your purity was meant to avoid. I know what it's like to walk into a space with an open heart and leave feeling like your soul was robbed. You gave truth, they gave confusion. You gave peace, they gave projection. You gave loyalty, they gave lesson. And yet, you still forgive because that's who you are. But let me tell you this: forgiveness doesn't mean return, forgiveness doesn't mean exposure, forgiveness doesn't mean try again. Forgiveness is when your spirit says, I release you, but I learned you. That's what evolution feels like. When purity meets awareness, when softness meets boundary, when love meets discernment. Now you walk wiser, still radiant, but untouchable. In this life, walking with pure intentions will always attract both heaven and hell. Light calls to light, but it also exposes shadows. You can't stop that, but you can decide who gets access to you once they appear. Your discernment is not judgment, it's protection. Your silence is not weakness, it's sacred timing. Your withdrawal is not bitterness, it's realignment. So don't apologize for evolving. You were never meant to stay soft just to be safe. You were meant to stay true, even if it means walking alone for a while. Because that's where the pure ones rebuild their power, in solitude with source, learning that peace is not in the crowd, it's in the clarity of who you are. The next time a trap appears dressed like alignment, you won't fall for it. You'll see it. You'll smile quietly and you'll keep walking, pure still, but protected now. You know what's wild? When you finally wake up from a spiritual trap, you don't even hate the people involved. You just feel quiet, like your soul finally exhaled, because you realize it wasn't really about them. It was about you learning how to walk in love without losing yourself to it. See, every trap is a teacher. Every betrayal has a blueprint. And once you study it, you'll start to see the pattern, not just in others, but in yourself. You ever notice how people call you when they're broken, but disappear when you're tired? That's because your purity trained them. You taught them that your light was available on demand. And now the lesson is reversing. Now your spirit is saying, I can still be kind, but I will no longer be consumed. That's when you start realizing being pure doesn't mean being perpetually available. Your energy has value. Your time has texture. Your heart has limits for a reason. The divine didn't give you endless energy so others could endlessly drain you. You were meant to pour, not leak. And the moment you understand that, your life begins to change. You start answering less. You start explaining less. You start apologizing less. And people call it a shift, but it's really a return to peace, a return to balance, a return to your truth. Now let's go deeper, because some of these traps aren't about other people at all. Sometimes we walk into them chasing identity. We want to be seen as kind, as strong, as forgiving, as chosen. So we overgive, we overexplain, we overstay. Not because they deserve it, but because we think it proves something about who we are. But hear me, you don't have to prove your purity to be a martyr. You don't have to prove your goodness by tolerating bad behavior. Sometimes your spirit's purity shows best in your goodbyes, because you can walk away without hate, without drama, without revenge, just wisdom. Forgiveness is sacred, yes, but unhealed forgiveness turns into permission. When you forgive too soon, you skip the lesson. You bypass your own clarity. You silenced a part of you that needed to process what really happened. And that's why you end up in cycles, because the universe keeps repeating the same test until you learn the energy of it. Forgiveness is not the goal, it's the graduation. You can't graduate from what you refuse to study. So take your time, cry if you need to, name what hurt you, not out of bitterness, but out of truth. Because truth is what cleanses the wound, not denial. You are not a bad person for being angry. You are not unspiritual for needing space. You are not cold for wanting peace. That's called alignment. And alignment sometimes look like distance. Then there's the image trap. You start evolving, reading, praying, meditating, and suddenly people start calling you deep. They look to you for answers. They call you when they're lost. And without realizing it, you start building a spiritual persona. Now, your purity has pressure, because you can't even cry without someone saying, I thought you were healed. You can't struggle without someone quoting your own words back to you. And that's where another trap hides, in expectation. The expectation to always be the light, to always be the wise one, to always be above it all. But you're human. Even the purest heart needs to rest. Even the strongest soul needs to bleed a little. And if your healing doesn't include your humanity, it's not healing, it's performance. You're not here to impress anyone with your evolution. You're here to embody it. That means some days you shine, some days you shatter, and both are holy. Here's one that hurts the most. You meet someone and instantly the energy is powerful. You feel connected, understood, divinely aligned. You think it's destiny. But not every energetic pull is a spiritual purpose. Sometimes it's just a mirror. Sometimes it's a karmic echo returning to show you where you still leak light. Energy doesn't equal assignment. Emotion doesn't equal alignment. Learn to ask, is this connection feeding my evolution or my addiction? Because a lot of people mistake familiarity for fate. It feels like home, but it's really a loop. And loops don't lead anywhere. They just keep you busy while your destiny waits. Good hearts struggle with this. You want people to know you meant well. You want them to see you clearly, but sometimes they can't. They're not supposed to. Your growth will make some people feel abandoned. Your boundaries will make some people feel attacked. And your peace will make some people feel punished. You can't manage their perception and protect your spirit at the same time. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them rewrite the story if they need to, because your peace doesn't need their permission to exist. The pure heart learns that silence speaks louder than self-defense. When you walk with pure intentions, you'll often walk misunderstood. But that's not your punishment. It's your protection. Because people who can't mislabel you can't manipulate you. You've been taught that every struggle means growth, that every hard thing must be a test. But not everything difficult is divine. Sometimes it's just dysfunction. It's toxic. God doesn't need you to suffer to prove you're spiritual. He needs you to see what no longer serves your soul. That's a difference between a challenge that builds you and a pattern that bleeds you. Stop confusing spiritual warfare with emotional unavailability. Stop calling abuse refinement. Stop baptizing red flags with scripture. Your purity deserves clarity. Your growth deserves peace. You keep seeing the good in people. You keep waiting for them to change. You keep saying, I see who they could be. But potential is not promise. And love doesn't equal longevity. Sometimes your assignment was just to plant a seed, not to build a garden. If you stay too long watering what won't grow, you'll drown your own roots. That's not loyalty, that's self-abandonment. You were not sent to save everyone you understand. You were sent to stand in truth so others could choose theirs. Here's the hardest one. The trap of refusing to look within. Because when you're pure-hearted, you often carry guilt for even having a shadow, for having a dark side. You don't want to admit your own resentment, jealousy, or exhaustion. But the shadow doesn't make you impure, it makes you whole. You can't master light without integrating darkness. The goal isn't to stay spotless, it's to stay honest. And when you can hold both, your love becomes less performative and more powerful. That's when you start loving people without needing to fix them. That's when you can walk through chaos and not absorb it. That's when your peace becomes a weapon. So yes, you walk with pure intentions, but now you walk aware. You can love without losing yourself. You can forgive without forgetting the lesson. You forgive and give, emptying your core, because the purest intention now carries wisdom, and wisdom knows where to pour, when to pause, and when to simply stand still and let the divine do the rest. You're not bitter, you're balanced. You're naive, you're new. And that's what evolution feels like. Purity after the lesson. Still kind, still open, but never again unguarded. Thank you for visiting my channel. See you on the next one.